I'm just trying to be, I guess, as open-minded and versatile as possible. The only thing I really feel like is different is now I have a target on my back.
Welcome to Flagstaff Bound, a special Cocodona 250 series brought to you by the Distance to Empty podcast and Aravaipa Running. I am Kevin Goldberg, host of the Distance to Empty podcast, where we dive deep into the world of 200-plus mile ultramarathons just like Cocodona. Of course, I'm joined by my trusty co-host, Peter Noyes. Today, we have the defending champion of Cocodona 250, Rachel Entrekin. She took on this monstrous course last year, came out on top, and now she's coming back for round 2. Rachel, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks.
So let's talk about the champion in the room and just get this out of the way. You won last year's Cocodona 250. Is that changing your approach at all as you gear up for round 2 here?
Not really. I feel like every race, every year, regardless of the length, has so many factors that go into play. I'm just trying to be, I guess, as open-minded and versatile as possible. The only thing I really feel like is different is now I have a target on my back, whereas last year I did not quite as much. So that's just a mental component that's a little more nerve-wracking. But as far as my training goes, I moved to higher altitude, so I'm in Colorado now. The bad part, though, is that I have no heat training until at least, I don't even know, April, unless I travel, which I'm planning on doing. But that's been kind of the biggest difference, is just like a lack of, I think, more specific heat training this year.
So do you have any big lessons you learned last year that you're going to be applying this year?
I think the biggest thing that I want to change this year versus last year is my aid station efficiency. When I'm by myself, I tend to be really efficient with aid stations. I usually do races without crews or pacers, but obviously with something like Cocodona, I wanted assistance. But we tended to kind of, and it was fine last year because I had no idea what I was doing and I just wanted to have fun. But we really, there were some aid stations that we lollygagged a good bit. And, I think all of that is important for it would be mentally uplifting, or I could just get some time off my feet. But this year, I think in particular, that's an area that I could save quite a bit of time if I'm just a little bit more deliberate about my aid station lollygagging.
Yeah. So Rachel, you and I leapfrogged a lot last year on the course, and I remember your crew was really fun. We spent some time together, so I can see why the lollygagging. Yeah. They were maybe a little too fun.
Yeah, they had some fun. I have 2 returning members this year that are able to come with me again. I think it'll be a really fun crew year this year too, actually. So it'll be hard to tear myself away for sure, but we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah. Awesome. I hope we get to share some miles again. So, with last year's race, I remember seeing you out there a few times, and I'm wondering, was there a critical point or a decision that you made last year where, that you helped, that really kind of had you finish on top? Was there a point where you were like, okay, this is something that can happen. This is something I need to do to make that happen, and sort of shifted gears in that way?
I think somewhere, at the halfway point, I had a pretty low point. I think my problem was I wasn't fueling very well. So I have been trying to work on being better at that. It's definitely my Achilles heel. And for something as long as 250 miles, you really have to eat a lot. But I think the point where I kind of realized, my only goal last year was I wanted to finish. Because I think that is kind of everybody's goal, is just try to finish. And then there's conditions under which you'd like to finish. But I think I realized I could do pretty well in Cocodona. I had a female pacer named Chalice who, for whatever reason, when I was running with her, I was eating a little more consistently. I was on day 2 or so. So it was close enough to the end where I could kind of envision myself actually finishing. And I was still running, surprisingly, at a pretty decent pace. So I don't think it's anything that I really did. I think it was just a function of there were more miles under my legs and there was more time that I'd spent with myself on that course, where I just kind of suddenly believed hey, I can actually do this, I think. But but yeah, so I mean, I don't have a eureka moment, other than I did learn a lot about like my personal nutrition strategy, which I think is like eat small bits super often, instead of just like sitting down and eating a cheeseburger at every aid station kind of thing. Um, so if I can keep that up this year, I mean, I think that would. I had some stomach issues during the race a couple times last year that I think was related to nutrition stuff. And if I can cut out that kind of wasted time where I'm puking on the side of the trail, that would be pretty nice. Because I probably spent, I think it took me about 2 hours to go like 2 miles. I don't remember what aid station it was, but it was like I was 2 miles from an aid station. I just had to get there, but I just kept, and I felt in good spirits. I just kept vomiting. So I think Kevin, I think you passed me at that point.
I was going to say, I think I remember where it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to not do that this year.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of miles out from Deer Pass. I remember seeing you and I think Pete on the side of the trail, and we were like, "You guys okay?" And you're like, "Oh yeah, we're fine, we're fine."
I mean, I'm hoping that I can keep my like, because I was very positive that whole time. I was telling my pacer Pete, I was like, "Yeah, I feel fine. I just can't, walk or do anything other than yak on the side of the trail." So yeah, figuring out my nutrition strategy has been helpful, and I've been working with Precision, and I've been using some of their products, and it's been a lot easier to get calories in. So that's been nice.
So as returning champ, coming into the race this year, you said you did have that target on that back. So how does that make you maybe switch how you approach? Like, are you going to be racing it this year versus last year? Maybe it was more of an adventure. Are you going to go out aggressively, or do you kind of wait and let it shake out, or just run your own race?
Like I said, I mean, I think every race from year to year is the conditions could be different. It could be very hot on day one. Last year it was pretty mild. I'm definitely not an aggressive starter, but I do. I mean, I want to try to compete against the pretty stacked women's field this year. So I mean, I don't want to get so far behind that I knock myself out, for the sake of like saving my legs for later. Unfortunately, even with events as long as Cocodona, like people are just nuts now. And I mean, Jeff Browning and Arlen and Harry, like last year, just redlined it for 250. Like that is what we're doing now. So, I think I learned a lot last year about how I can pace certain sections of this course, and how to, like I said, approach aid station efficiency, and nutrition and that kind of thing. And I'm hoping that that means I can be a little bit better on the trails and better with consistently running in certain sections. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say a strategy that's going to work for something as long as 250 miles. It really, I mean, it's just problem solving. Like I've done this race before. I've encountered some problems. Hopefully I can take what I've learned from last year and from other races that I've done and apply it to in real time on no sleep to this race while it's happening. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, that sounds pretty easy.
Yeah, totally easy. Yeah, I'm telling you, this race is super easy.
Yeah, no, you're right though. It's such a combination of strategies, and I think, like for myself personally, I've finished 10 of these things now, and I think in the back of my head is always like, well, you need to finish. Like there's the fear of not finishing, and if you have that fear and you have an aggressive goal, in combination with that fear, those two things don't really mix anymore in this distance. Like you need to be okay with sort of like risking some things out there because the fields are, whether it's an aggressive time goal you have for yourself or a placement competition goal. It's like these races are going out fast, they're going out hard, and I'm going to do my best to let go of that. Like, hey, I've finished these before. Maybe that's not the goal this time. The goal is something different, and that's a scary thing to wrap your head around.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, I've never. I think I kind of joke about this, but I always say that I don't actually like to race. I just like my easy pace to be faster than everybody else's. And so I don't think, especially like I said, with like the women's field this year is stacked. I don't think that's going to fly this year. Like I think I am like, I hesitate to say this, but like, I think I'm actually going to really have to try pretty hard from the kind of get-go to be competitive. So, but if that doesn't work, I'd love to just finish. I mean, a finish is still, I mean, such an incredible accomplishment when it's something like this race. So
if someone came to you looking for advice about Cocodona, what would your one thing be for them?
I think it depends on what, I guess, their goal is, like if they're trying to be competitive versus if they're just trying to finish the race. But I think regardless, my number one piece of advice is figure out who you want on your crew and then just trust them. Last year, especially when I was really low on calories and dehydrated, I mean, my brain was a sponge or like a Swiss cheese. And my crew was like, here's what you're doing. And I was just like, okay, even though it wasn't necessarily what they encouraged me to sleep pretty early, I think, in the race. Cause I was just like completely falling apart. And I didn't want to, cause at the time I was in first, it was like the halfway point and I didn't want to stop, but I mean, they pretty easily convinced me, and then I slept, and then it was totally the right call. I woke up, I felt way better. So yeah, just figuring out who you want on that team. Cause I mean, it really, I think especially something like this, I don't know how people do it without crews. I mean, mad props, but this to me, I mean, is a team event. Like I could not have done what I did last year without every single person on my crew. So yeah, figuring out who you want on your team, I think is a great key towards success in this race.
Yeah, agreed. Super critical. Yeah. All right. So you obviously know the course for the most part. Not too much has changed. Going back for year two, what section of Cocodona are you most looking forward to this year?
I'm kind of looking forward to all of them. I'm assuming at certain points in the race, it's going to be different times of day than maybe what I did last year. If I could manage to hit Sedona, I hit Sedona right at sunrise. I would not be upset if that happened again. That was incredible. So if I could hit Sedona at sunrise again, that will be the section I look forward to most. But I don't know. I'm excited to see them all again, to be honest, including Mount Eldon, which I had a huge problem with last year. I'm excited to redo that section.
Are there any sections you're dreading?
There's a couple kind of more boring sections of like Forest Service roads forever. Now there's pros and cons. At least it's quick, easy miles in theory. I'm also kind of dreading those two long sections at the end where there's no pacers this year. I really enjoyed having pacers last year. And so that's going to be a little tough, maybe. So I think those are really the only two sections that I'm just like, are the pacerless ones at like mile 230 or something.
Yeah, those are gonna. I've never lost my mind more than on that stretch from Fort Tuttle to Walnut Canyon. Now I'm gonna be alone.
I know, amidst the owls, the rare owls.
So, with the exception of the Mexican spotted owl, if you could have any animal be a pacer for you on that section, what would you choose?
Oh, that is a great question. Probably like a Bernese. That'd be pretty sick. I think they'd probably die after a while, but I just hung out with a Bernese this morning and I forget how much I love them. So yeah, Bernese or my cat. Final answer.
So what shoes are you going to start the race in?
I'm still a Topo aficionado, so Topo of some sort is likely.
Ultra Venture?
Probably. I don't know the names of anything. Whatever I wore last year, I still wear. So probably the same pair of shoes, to be honest with you.
All right. We've talked a lot about you being the defending champion and performance, placement, all that sort of stuff. But what is one outcome from this year's race that's not tied to results, not tied to placement, not tied to your time that would make you really proud of yourself?
I would really like to not fall apart at Mount Eldon. That is a bit, and I would like to finish a lot happier this year than I did last year. I mean, I won the race and I was so grumpy when I finished. And I have so many regrets about that. So yeah, I think it starts with having a better attitude about Mount Eldon. And I've done it before. So hopefully that knowledge I can kind of use to know what I'm up against. But yeah, not falling apart on Mount Eldon and finishing happy are my two goals that are not related to place.
So what do you think about the direction change then on Mount Eldon?
I haven't. Yeah, I mean, I've heard it's much harder. I'd like to get down there and actually try to do it so that I can be prepared for it. But I have my same pacer, Jake. I was talking to him, and I was like, "Hey, so do you want to do Mount Eldon again, or do you want to do something different?" He was like, "I want Mount Eldon." So it's like, okay, cool. Well, we're both going to need to be a lot more prepared. So I might even see if he wants to go down sometime and do it. Because yeah, I don't know enough about. I'm not looking forward to how steep that downhill is going to be. That the race that's going to suck. I liked the runnable Forest Service road. I felt like I was flying on that. So it's going to be tough to do those. It's going to be tough when it's steeper for sure. But I don't know. I have no idea. I'll let you know when the race is over how I feel about it.
Yeah, we'll catch up at Heritage Square. We can see what we think.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Deal.
All right, so we've asked everyone so far this question. We got a little help from Chat GPT to guide us, but how many steps do you think it's going to take you to get from Black Canyon City to Flagstaff?
So I actually know how many steps approximately it takes to run a mile, and I think it's like 2,300. So I would say somewhere around 500,000, because that's math. I did this math. Yeah.
Math doesn't lie.
I think 500,000. I mean, the math is crap, but yeah, maybe 500,000. Because I know you're walking at least like 30% of this course, probably. So
yeah,
maybe like somewhere between like 500 and 600,000 is going to be my guess.
Yeah, it's a good guess. I've been surprised at how close people are to at least what ChatGPT says.
Yeah. And I mean,
somewhere between.
Yeah, I have a range of 100,000, so that's a pretty crappy guess. But
yeah. No, that's exactly like ChatGPT was like 400,000 to 500,000, depending on stride length and other factors. But again, more walking involved, so who knows?
And
yeah.
I mean, I'm 5'3", so my steps are not your steps, Kevin.
That's true. Yeah, we learned that on Eldon last year.
Yeah, we sure did.
Maybe I'm the problem. It seems like you had your lows when I was in close vicinity.
Okay, so you can just, I don't know, maybe I won't see you on the course. I'll just be like, where's Kevin on the course? I have to stay away.
Perfect. Good plan. All right. Well, we're super excited to see you out there again, Rachel. Remember that Cocodona 250 kicks off on Monday, May 6th at 5 a.m. Pacific. You can catch all the action live on the Mountain Outpost YouTube channel, where the incredible team over at Aravaipa Running will bring you nonstop race coverage around the clock. Don't forget to also follow along on Cocodona 250's social media channels. There'll be more content there. There'll be behind-the-scene updates throughout the entire race. Rachel, where can people follow your journey this year at Cocodona?
I'm on Instagram. It's Rachel _Entrekin, and then I'm also on Strava. I've been pretty terrible at Instagram lately, though. So follow is a loose verb, perhaps. But Strava, I'm on Strava.
Sweet. Awesome. Rachel, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, no worries.